What's up, world? It's Chris Anthony coming at you live and direct one more time, man. And today I'm going to be talking about something that's more personal to me, actually, like revealing to you a part of my life that I pretty much had been going through and have went through. So it's something that was going on about like 7 years ago in my life, when it came down to what I was doing, how I was living, everything like that. So in 2009, I would say in 2004 was was it 2005, I believe, was the start of it. And what happened is I had kind of like a spiritual awakening in 2005. When I was in college. It was like my first year in college, and I was going through all of these different things in college, like homesickness and loss of identity, trying to find my identity, trying to find myself, not being able to fit in, having all these social insecurities when it came down to connecting to other people. I was living off campus, and it was hard for me to really go and connect with everybody that was on campus. So I was having a hard time my first year or freshman year in college. And what happened was I started to just go through this whole process of depression and feeling like all these negative thoughts about me not wanting to live anymore, suicidal thoughts, not wanting to live anymore because I wasn't happy at the end of the day. I didn't know how to be myself. I didn't know how to connect with other people. I had no friends. I just felt real lonely. I would just coop myself up in the apartment that I was living in and just feel real lonely with no connection, to anybody. And I didn't know how to go out and actually make friends because I was a shy person. I was very, very, very shy. I grew up in high school like that, so when I went to college and I was kind of like off on my own, it just, just multiplied and it magnified even more. So I was having this whole experience going on with me until a point where I really couldn't even take it anymore, and I started to have, like I said, all these suicidal thoughts, these depressed thoughts, and I just really didn't want to live anymore. Like, I was like, why would I want to live a life where I feel like this? Like, because I felt so much pressure, so much pain going on because I couldn't actually, go and connect. I felt like I was caged or locked inside of myself, locked inside of my mind, and I couldn't express myself and speak. Whenever I tried to speak or connect with people, I would just like have all this anxiety and start sweating a lot and not even able to connect at all. So that was going on. I was like 18, 19 years old, first year in college. And what happened is I had this spiritual awakening because of all that was going on. And I kind of like awoke to certain things, in life. Like, it was a real powerful awakening that I had. Like, I felt it like it was a physical like experience that I had, and I was just crying. I was thinking about my whole life. I was thinking about all the things I did wrong, all the things that I did right, and just having this whole like major big experience. And after it, I felt like I had, like awoken, or I had kind of put off a lot of weight that I was carrying when it came down to me being myself, or me being able to speak and express myself and connect with people, like, and having all these fears and anxieties that I was having. And so pretty much what happened was I put that into a box during that time of my life as a spiritual awakening. It was a spiritual awakening, and what I did is, because I was raised in the church and raised, inside of Christianity and Pentecostal and like Apostolic type of churches my whole life, then I was led to go into church. And so I went into church and I started to, just become involved inside of the church that was near my college. It was like right down the street from the college that I was at. And I just really took them on as a family. They took me on as a family. I started going like deeper and deeper into, the teachings of the church and the teachings of Christianity and the Bible that I had already knew because I was raised up in it, and I just really took a love to it. It was like a real good part of my life where I was growing. I was becoming a lot more bolder. I had a belief system that really I could depend on, and it gave me like independence. It gave me like a lot of different things that I never had before. It gave me an identity at the end of the day, because I didn't have an identity my first year in college, you know, and that's where you kind of go to find yourself a lot of times with a lot of different younger people. They go to college to try to figure out who they are and what they're going to be. And so I was going through this whole process, and I had found it inside of church. I had found it, you know, inside of religion, and so I was inside of this, and I was growing, and eventually I became like a preacher. I became somebody that was actually somebody who could teach everybody else about everything that I had learned, or teach about the Bible, or give my insight on everything that, you know, we were trying to learn and strive for with God, you know, inside of Christianity. So it was good. Like, I would go and preach at different churches. I would preach in front of my home church. Everybody was loving like everything that I was saying. I overcame a lot of fears, like being able to speak in front of a big group of people, for instance, was a big fear that I had, you know, when I was older, like, you know, 18, 19. But in younger years, when I was like 7 or 8, I would do it all the time, no problem. Like, it was just easy. I had like a natural knack for it, a natural gift for it. So, but during this time, 19, 20, 21, you know, I was really like growing in the church, and I had a leadership position in the church, and I was just like deeply involved. I'm talking about to the most highest extent that you can ever see anybody deeply involved in church. Like, that's all I would do. I would be reading the Bible. I would be reading books that had to do with spirituality, with Christian, you know, teachings and stuff like that. I would listen to all of the preachers and teachers that were around the world. I would be listening to the pastor that was at my church, you know, and all the other leadership people that was kind of like imparting knowledge into me, and I was just learning and growing and growing and growing with all this knowledge, and I kept, you know, just eating it all up. I would be the first one to get to the church. I would clean the church after everybody left. I would be the last one to leave. I was just really deeply loyal, you know, when it came down to this new belief system, and I was deeply involved and invested when it came down to this new belief system. And so I was doing that for a couple of years. Then what happened next was something that I never would have expected, like never in my life. And so what happened next is I started to just have these negative experiences when it came down to this belief system that I was having. And it really wasn't just the belief system itself, but it was kind of like I was having these negative experiences, not even in the church that I was at. It was just the effects that I would say being in this this church, or let's say this belief system, was having on my personal life. And what happened is I started to see all the old things come back that I was dealing with before, like just having anxiety about certain things, and all these fears that I was having about, you know, socializing with people, or speaking to people, or, you know, just being connected to everybody. And this is what led me into this place in the first place, was because I couldn't do that. But what I saw was that I started to actually feel all these things again. Like, I started to feel all this anxiety and depression, and feeling alone, and feeling separated again, because of what I was being, you know, taught, let's say, in this church, or taught by the Bible, or my point of view that I had on you know, the scriptures that I was learning. Because a lot of them were saying, you know, to be separate from people who didn't believe in what you believed in, or to come out of darkness with the people that were sinning and stuff like that. So I felt a big separation. Like, I would go to work and I couldn't really mingle with anybody else, because I had the holier than thou type of attitude. I had the attitude that was separating me from anybody else that didn't believe in the things that I believed in. And I thought that I was righteous, you know, self-righteous. And I thought that everybody else was sinful, and if I hung out with them, then they would get me dirty. They would affect me in a way where, you know, I wouldn't be right with God. And I was doing all this, is what I found out, from a lot of fears that I had, because I was afraid of disappointing God. I was afraid of disappointing my leadership, or my pastors that was at this church. I was afraid of going to hell. I was afraid of all these different things that was taught inside of Christianity. So I kept doing this and doing this in life, until it got to a point where I started to have like pretty much like panic attacks. I was having like panic attacks because I would come into contact with people, and I didn't want to open up or I didn't even want to let them know like where I stood spiritually, you know, or what I believed in inside of Christianity. I kind of wanted to fit in, but I knew I couldn't fit in because of what I believed in. So I couldn't treat them like friendly and stuff like that. So all this stuff was going on, and you know, it was just because I believe my perception to what I was taught and believed in, you know, inside of the church. And I started to just have such a negative experience and such a bad experience, like within my body, within my emotional state, within my mind, that I couldn't take it anymore, and I had to make the decision to actually leave that church. Now, this was a very, very like hard thing for me, like, because I believe at this point I was like 21 or 20. I think I was 22 or 23, because it was 2009. So I think I was like around 22, 23. And it was like a real hard thing for me to do, to tell my leadership, you know, or to tell my pastor, to tell, at that time it was like my apostle, because I was at an apostolic church, to tell them that I didn't want to come to this church anymore. I didn't, you know, feel right. I didn't feel comfortable because you know, it was having like adverse effects on me. And it was like the hardest thing. It took me like months to do. Like I was struggling with it. I was having all this like anxiety about it, this pain about it, like in my soul. Like my soul was just like in pain because I didn't want to disappoint anybody. I didn't want to disappoint God. I was afraid that God was going to like kill me at the end of the day, or he was going to send some angel after me with a sword to just like chop me in two pieces, because like that's how fearful I was. That's pretty much what I had been taught, that if you disappoint God, like he could kill you if he wanted to. He could forgive you too, you know, but it's like it's a lot of scriptures that say once you started you know, out with this route, it'll be better for you to just what does it say? I forgot what it says, but it says something about it's better for you not to even join up and not even become a believer if you're going to just stop being a believer at some point, because like, you know, bad things can happen to you. And then there was other scriptures where it says, you know, people fell away from the faith, and then they were turned over to the flesh or something. And something like they would just get some type of curse on them because they stopped believing. So I was afraid. Like I was scared all the way. I didn't know what I was going to do, but I just know that something didn't sit right with me because I was here. So I had to leave. Like, and so I told the leadership of the church, and I ended up leaving and moving to Virginia with my sister in Virginia. And then the process started. That was the next phase of it, and it was very, very like painful. Like it was even more pain than I felt that it was going to be with me telling the leadership of my church. Like, but it was kind of like my soul had been ripped out of me, because it was this belief system like I was invested in totally. I was all the way invested in it. Like I believed all the way, like inside of this. I wasn't playing around. Like some people who go to church and they just do it just because it's they do it religiously, because they just need to go on Sunday because it's a part of their life. No, I was like in church all the time, at home, in my car. Like I was always studying the Bible. I was always singing Christian songs. I was always just playing Christian everything. Always watching church. I was a part of the church, like everywhere. Like, so for me to leave and to, you know, just totally dip out on that whole thing, it was very painful. So what I did, I started to look for other churches. And I went into different churches, talked to different pastors, let them know what happened with me, and tried to see if I could maybe join up to some other churches. And I tried a lot of different churches. Like in that town that my original church was, I tried a lot of churches in that town. And then I went, when I moved to Virginia, and tried a lot of churches in Virginia. And it was crazy because I kept seeing the same patterns in all of the churches. And this pattern of teaching just triggered something in me that was painful. Very emotional, very painful, because it was what was already going on. So what I had to do is stop going to church, and that was painful for me because I was pretty much like addicted to going to church. I wouldn't say addicted, but I got my inspiration from church. Like that was the only like way that I could continue to go on with life, was by going to church and get, you know, the word of the day and get what the pastor was saying and just feel it and be like, yes, man, then go back out and I'll be okay for another week. It was kind of like me getting my hit, you know, like junkies do or whatever. But So I had all these withdrawal symptoms when I wasn't going to church anymore, and it was hurting. It was like so painful. Like it felt like I said, my soul was being ripped out. But the reason why I had to stop is because I have such a critical mind, and in that system of church, it was like a lot of things that was going on where you couldn't question God at all. You couldn't question him, and if you did, he didn't have to answer you, and you would pretty much show that you had some disbelief going on because you questioned God. And so you are afraid to do that. I was afraid to question God, like for real. I was afraid of God for a lot of years, like just afraid like God could kill me at any moment because I'm not a believer anymore. I'm not in church anymore. I'm not going, to hear what the pastor has to say. So I was afraid. I was real afraid. But what happened is that led me to this path that I've been on for the last 7 years. And what I did, I started to research a lot of different things. I started to research all this information that I needed to have to make things a lot more clearer to me than it was. And I started to research all these different cultures, all these times in history. I researched the beginning of the church and the origins of the Christian church and the Christian faith and how it came together and how people came together to write the Bible and all these different things, where they got that information from, all this stuff. And it was mind-blowing because it blew my mind that nobody taught this inside of any church. Nobody taught the history of the church. And it was some crazy things about the history of the Christian faith and some things that were good. But the crazy things were the things that kind of jumped out to me. And I was like, what in the world? And I kind of don't want to get into that on this video because I'm not trying to come against the Christian faith at all. I'm not trying to say that anybody that goes to church is like a bad person or the Christian faith is not good. Like, I think it's needed because I needed the Christian faith. Like, I needed to go to church when I went to church, and it changed my life a lot. But I saw it more as like a stepping stone, as something that I did for that time, and then it's kind of like I reached a glass ceiling that I couldn't get over. Like, it was a glass ceiling that I was wondering why I couldn't like continue to grow inside of it. And I found because it was a cutoff of information. It stopped at a certain point. And so once I got out of church, I started researching a lot of things, and then everything just kind of started to expand from that point, from me being in church and learning everything that I could to a point of now I was learning a lot more things than I was learning just in church, because it wasn't limited to just the Christian faith. I could research a lot of other spiritual things in other cultures, other time periods, because the Christian faith or the Christian religion is only 2,000 years old, and so it was a lot of information before that. It was a lot of information that the Christian religion adopted from other spiritual systems, and that was what was crazy to me also. But so I went through this whole period of that, and it was kind of like an awakening period, and it was kind of like a crazy hard time for me because, like I said, I was invested so much in Christianity, and even making this video is kind of crazy for me. But I'm at the point now where I'm kind of like healed from all of like the open wounds that I had, or the open fears that I had about being vocal about what I believe in now. So, but the whole process of it was crazy, and it's crazy because today I was supposed to be making a video about awakening and becoming more aware. And in this video, I was going to be talking about how the first steps of becoming more aware or awakening from the dream is to like see how a lot of different systems that you believe are one way are actually different. Like, for instance, you see a lot of conspiracy theorists talking about a lot of different stuff that are crazy and that you think is one way, but it is another way, in fact. And how the government, is one way that you see it, that they paint the picture, but in reality, it's a lot of, invested interests. It's a lot of people that have money that make things happen that we think we make happen because we're a democracy. But, that's another story. But I was talking about that. I was going to talk about that today, and then this kind of popped up, and I was like, I have to do this because it's the same thing. Because the part of awakening that I had to go through too was awakening from religion. And now I see religion as something that is nothing that's bad, because I think it's needed. A lot of people need religion, but I think that is also religion is not the end all and be all. And I think you can get to a point And I don't know who this is going to rub the wrong way, but me, I got to a point where I kind of outgrew religion. And it was more information out there that religion couldn't provide, because religion, or let's say the Christian religion, only talks about what it talks about. Its history, it only talks about Jesus. It only talks about, and you have to like believe in it like it's no other information out in the world. And if you actually go and try to seek out other information, then it's wrong in the Christian faith. And if anybody else tries to give you other information, then it says you're supposed to say that they're cursed and they're the devil or something like that. And so it was controlling to me, like very controlling, and I didn't want to be controlled with those thoughts anymore, or that type of teaching. So I had to get out of it. And that's just what I did. I don't know if everybody else will have a journey like that, but I have seen a lot of other people talk about the same thing, and I just want to put it out there now. So that happened. Now I'm in a place where my belief system is not Christianity. My religion is not Christianity. I don't actually believe in religion, and I don't believe in that somebody should be, just boxed into one way of seeing things, because I think a lot of people have different point of views on seeing the same thing, like communion with God. I don't think that just because somebody is not Christian, let's say if they're Hindu or they're Buddhist, I don't believe that they don't have a connection to God because they're Hindu or they're Muslim or they're Buddhist. I don't, and the Christian faith believes in that a lot of times, and then it keeps every religion does that though, but it keeps all of us separate from each other because you don't believe in what I believe in. And that's why a lot of wars were started at the beginning of the Christian faith, because they wanted everybody to believe in what they believed in. So they actually went out and killed people who didn't believe in what they believed in. If you know anything about the Crusades, the church went out and they wanted to conquer the world by taking their belief system from them and giving their belief system to them. Look up the Crusades. I mean, it's crazy, but I mean, I'm not saying any of this, like I said, to talk down on any religion, because I don't think that religion is bad within itself. I think that it is the beginning of spirituality, and it's deeper spirituality that comes after religion, if you ask me, because religion is limited to, what's in the book. But I started widening my perception on what I was studying, and I got into a lot of metaphysical teachings, a lot of esoteric teachings, and that kind of like started to open my eyes and let me connect dots more and become like have more of an understanding of what the world is. So my camera keeps going out, but what I was going to say is, on my channel, this is where I'm coming from. I'm coming from the place of believing in everything. At the end of the day, I have an all-inclusive belief system. I don't limit myself to just one way of seeing things. If somebody from a different religion says something that makes some sense, like, I can say that makes some sense, there's some truth to that, instead of just, saying, you know what, you're a Muslim, like that doesn't make any sense because you're a Muslim. I don't see things like that now, and I don't put myself into that box. So I wanted to say that, for anybody that's going to be watching these videos, that's where I'm coming from. I'm coming from like a perspective that's more open-minded, and I'm not here to talk down on any religion or be against any religion, or not accept somebody because they're Christian, because they're Muslim, because they're Buddhist, or because they're Hindu, because it's plenty of people that live in this world, and God is a lot bigger than just one religion. The universe is a lot bigger than just one religion. So it's an all-inclusive point of view that I'm coming from, and all people are one. And at the end of the day, I don't think that we are separated and divided by what we believe in. I believe everybody is on the same page. At the end of the day, everybody is a human being, and it's too many things out here already that separate us all, like culture and the color of your skin and your background and your country. Like, religion is just another thing that separates us all from everybody else. So I'm coming from a place where I accept everybody, like, no matter what you believe in, and what I want to do is just teach principles spiritual principles and just everyday practical principles that I've learned in my life, and just give insight. And this is just my opinion at the end of the day. It's not the end all of and be all of everything. I don't think that I'm right or wrong. Like, I'm just putting out information as I get it. And the insight that I see when I look out into life and I just see certain things happen, I draw insight on it, and I have a certain perspective and a creative way of putting it out there. So that's all I'm doing. Appreciate you for hearing my story. Like, this is the first time I ever just spoke my story out on camera before, or to anybody, or like into that much detail. So hopefully the video isn't too long. Hopefully I didn't rub anybody the wrong way, or like just make people hate me because I was talking about the Christian faith. Like, this is just my experience and what I went through and what I'm on now, and I think that should be known to the viewers. So it's Chris Anthony coming at you live once again. I'm coming back with the other video that's going to be becoming aware, like I was talking about earlier. That's going to be a good video, like a good video. So stay tuned for that. Peace.